how long it's not really an anniversary, it's just an event that originally going to go live at the brewery in that. But, that was about November. Then I think about other events. Just kind of popped up.
When we had our first planning meeting, that we did an elbow bump.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I think we kind of yeah. Going and set up the rest of it, right? People are coming.
Are you with me? You're going to count.
Welcome, everybody. Here we are at slashing carbon one building at a time. Thanks for your ability to hang in there. It's been a bit of an improv on our end, but this is kind of live Zoom craziness that's happening. This is a collaboration between Citizens Climate Lobby, who is a group that I'm greatly fond of. My name's Craig Foley. I'm from their Realty Partners. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer there. We're at Deer Path Farms here in Hudson, Massachusetts, which is a sustainable development, which we're going to highlight as well. And we have a very special guest with us tonight, too, Senator Jamie Eldridge, who is on Zoom. So hopefully you're hearing him on Zoom as well. And we've got some video of Senator Eldridge a little bit later. But Senator Eldridge, can you just give us a brief introduction about your work as a senator with carbon pricing? And we're going to cover some of this, but also kind of Neshoba Valley in your district, which is just beautiful. It's awesome because we got people from all over the United States that don't know anything about Massachusetts and what a great community it is.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Craig, for doing this event with Citizens Climate Lobby and highlighting, how it is possible to construct and build communities like Deer Path Farms that, are low impact and reduce our carbon footprint. And very proud that Deer Path Farms is in my district in the town of Hudson. And yeah, I very proud to represent. It's called the Middlesex and Worcester District. It's 14 communities, Many of them are so-called green communities, so they're doing their part on zoning, on being more energy efficient, on embracing solar and energy efficiency. Some of the communities actually have sustainability managers to reduce carbon footprint and energy use and reduce and eliminate the use of fossil fuels. It's a beautiful district. Climate change, combating climate change, I would say, is easily one of the top priorities. And as a state senator, I serve as the Senate chair of the Clean Energy Caucus, and have filed legislation from environmental justice to 100% renewable energy to increasing the investments in solar and offshore wind by the state. So really happy to be here, and yeah, looking forward to the conversation and highlighting Deer Path Farms and the great work that the Citizens Climate Lobby does.
Well, I'm a resident of Melrose, so unfortunately I can't vote for you, or else you would have gotten my vote all the way through all of the terms that you've served. You've done such great service to the Commonwealth, particularly from a climate perspective. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us in this event. And Senator Eldridge is going to be on for the entire event to take questions even at the end. And Allison from Citizens Climate Lobby, tell us a little bit about Citizens Climate Lobby, what we're doing here and how crazy this has been, and,
Sure.
and what your objective is in the end.
Yeah. So as Craig said, my name is Allison Monroe. I'm with Citizens Climate Lobby. We are a truly nonpartisan group, and we're all about generating political will to combat climate change. So right now, we are laser focused on legislation to implement a carbon fee and dividend, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's putting a price on carbon, and then it gives money back to people. It puts money in their pocket. And we truly believe in the power of optimism and respect and reaching across the political aisle to build a solution. I think that's going to be even more important now that everyone works together. So if you're interested, of course, please join us at citizensclimatelobby.org. I will say I joined because I wanted to do something about climate change. I didn't just want to talk about it to my friends who agree with me. And now that I've joined, I've had the chance to actually lobby my members of Congress, both in DC before the pandemic, and now we do it virtually. And we're lobbying for HR 763, so there is legislation out there already. It's called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And for me, it's been so empowering because I get to be a part of actually seeing our democracy in action, and it's thrilling. So also, Citizens Climate Lobby now has almost 200,000 members.
No
so
kidding.
We have grown immensely.
Wow.
600 chapters around the world. There's even like an American Samoa chapter. So politicians see us bringing them solutions that can work in their own districts. And that's been part of the lesson for me in lobbying. We hear what our legislators care about. We go back and we actually research solutions. So when we want to meet with them, they welcome us because we can address their goals. So I hope you'll join us. And I'm excited tonight to talk about how we can reduce carbon in the built environment, because I'm learning a lot, and I didn't know that the built environment is responsible for 39% of our carbon emissions.
Yeah, so my team is called the Rethink 39 group at Lair Realty Partners, and the 39 that we're rethinking is the 39% of U.S. energy consumption that's attributed to the built environment. It's a huge percentage of energy that we use in the homes and businesses that we work in. Most of that is actually in our homes. And we have such great opportunities as homeowners or as home buyers buying new homes. We're selling net zero energy developments, which have literally a zero carbon footprint. And we have the technology today to be able to solve some of these problems. So the first video you're going to see, we've got some recorded videos here because everything's different in the real estate industry. You know, when we were initially thinking about an event like this before the pandemic hit, we would have been having wine and cheese here and the senator talking to people, a huge room live, and all of that's changed. You know, everything's changed. So we've got a bunch of videos. The first one you're going to see, we're going to start with two. One of them is Brett Sarno, who's the construction manager and builder of the projects here at Deer Path Farms, which is 64 plus building homes now at this point, with another bunch to add. So great opportunity for this great development. If you're interested, he's going to talk about how these homes have been built since the 90s, way above code, doing things that only now the code is requiring from builders from an energy efficiency perspective. So we'll hear a short little bit from Brett, and then we're going to go to a realtor named George Tully in Chicago, Illinois, who is leading an incredible initiative with Citizens Climate Lobby. It's a real estate climate declaration. So all the realtors on this want you to really pay attention to this. My firm, Leo Realty Partners, signed the climate declaration today. We're very proud of that. So let's head to the two videos, Sergio, if we can, to Brett and George, and then we'll come back and have a short little chat together, and we'll see a couple more videos after that. Short, 5 to 8 minutes long. My name is Craig Foley. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Leo Realty Partners, and I'm joined here with Brett Sarno, who is the construction supervisor for the development. Jerry and Brett, Dad and son, are the design build team. Tell us a little bit about, we're in Unit 56 right now, which is a unit that was built in, when,
2015, 2016.
Yeah. And now it's for resale, so there are resale opportunities here as well, which is great to see.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the way you guys build. It's really interesting. You know, up until this last building code cycle, builders weren't required to go to 2x6 construction. 2x4 construction used to be the way that you could always do the minimal to meet the code. Why did they go from 2x4 to 2x6, Brett? What's the advantage of that?
Well, for the energy to keep it in and to make more insulation on the exterior walls. We've been doing 2x6 ever since we've been building. My dad, when I was a young kid, built 2x6 frames. He always got more insulation in the homes, and it's the way we've been doing it all along. And then to put on top, we've gotten even better with the 2x6 because we found new insulation that's called cellulose insulation that's put in under pressure, and it fills it up to even a greater R value.
Yeah. So that 2 inches of extra insulation makes a huge difference in terms of the building envelope. And then on top of that, you're doing something on the exterior of the building, if I understand it, right?
Right.
So like a polyiso exterior insulation as well?
Yes, in between the 2x6 frame and the siding, we use 1 inch, an R value of 5 that wraps the whole house like a blanket.
Yeah.
And it just makes the house tighter, which is another energy code. Yeah. And it just keeps it warmer. Keeps it warmer in the wintertime and cooler in the summertime.
Yeah. So you've got a super insulated building here, which lowers the operating cost for the homeowners, makes for a very comfortable home to live in. You don't, I mean, so many people, when I ask them, you know, if I'm working with a new buyer, one of the things I ask them is, what is it that you didn't like about some of the previous homes that you lived in? And inevitably, Brett, one of the things that comes up is, you know, we always had a room that in the summer was way too hot and in the winter was way too cold. You don't get that with these super insulated buildings, right?
Right.
So there are a lot of misperceptions in the marketplace, even with real estate pros, about energy efficiency, and buildings can be too tight and, you know, proper ventilation. But even when I was listening to the presidential debate a couple of weeks ago, even someone as powerful as the President of the United States had a misperception, it seems to me. You know, he was complaining at the end of the debate about tiny windows as a complaint for energy efficiency. But when I look here at Unit 56 and all of your units, you've got these big, beautiful, huge windows, and it's energy efficient. So how do you do that? What's the secret sauce here to make this work?
It's really using passive solar energy.
Okay.
And you in the wintertime, the glass allows the sunlight to come in and heat up the home, heats up the walls, heats up the floor. Even at night, the heat comes out of the floor, out of the walls, and keeps the house warm, and you use less energy trying to heat the house. In the summertime, we use trees around the house with the leaves. That shades it, along with just natural shades in the house, and you don't have to use the AC as much, and the house stays cool.
Oh, that's great. Your dad was talking about that in art, how you actually move the trees for shading. Now that makes all kinds of sense for me. It's this passive solar design.
Right.
That's great. were in the office for DeerPath in the community. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier was misperceptions in the real estate community. You know, when I teach the green designation, I get agents that say, oh, buildings can be too tight. And they could be too tight if you don't have proper ventilation. But here's an example, this piece that we have right here of making sure that buildings are properly ventilated. This is an energy recovery ventilation system. Explain to us how this works, Brett.
Really, this takes the stale air out of the house, brings it out and exits the house, and it brings fresh air in. And as it comes in, it goes through a couple different filters and cleans it and brings the clean air into the home.
That's incredible. So this is a technology, I mean, we talk about this, you're hearing about this in the news, right? Getting schools back online in the midst of COVID. It seems like there's going to need to be some funding for proper ventilation in these commercial buildings, right? In offices that we work in. And this is a technology that hasn't been used very much in homes, but now it's easy to use, it's cost effective, and we're bringing in a fresh supply of fresh filtered air coming into the house and the stale air being taken out. That's what they talk about when we talk about proper ventilation, right?
Right, exactly. These are great. These are great in the new homes, and it's going to be even better, like you talk about, in schools and in office buildings.
Yeah.
It'll be a great thing.
Yeah. So this is just one more example of the work that DeerPath Farms has been doing since the 90s, way ahead of what the building code has been requiring to make sure that these homes are sustainable for the homeowners that live here. They're more energy efficient, they're properly ventilated, lower operating costs, fresh air, healthy environment to live in, and so much more comfortable. This is, they're so much ahead of the game. It's really fantastic to see.
Hi, my name is Craig Foley. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Lair Realty Partners, and I'm the co-founder of the Rethink 39 group.
My name is George Tully. I am a real estate agent in Chicago with App Properties. I am also the one of the chapter leaders and organizers for Citizens Climate Lobby, our Chicago North chapter. I've been a volunteer with the organization for about 6 years, and I'm also proud to be the chair of the Chicago Association of Realtors' new Sustainability Committee, which this will be their first year as a committee. We're making the transition from working group, and really excited to talk to you about that today, along with Citizens Climate Lobby.
Tell me a little bit about what Chicago Association of Realtors is doing. It'd be great to hear how this started, how you were able to advance this at Chicago Association of Realtors.
It's actually a fun story in that the beginning of the whole committee started at a showing. I had a listing. The other agent was actually looking for herself and her wife, and we started talking about composting. And it's an agent I had known, and we were in composting led to talking about clean energy and sustainability in general. And it kind of dawned on us during that conversation that sustainability and real estate go hand in hand. Our association our group is focusing on three big things. One is marketing material that agents, whoever they are, it's white label, helpful information for property owners of how they can reduce their footprint. And that's anything from energy efficiency to retrofits, to clean energy, to recycling, to composting, to water management. We want to have a really robust suite of material that agents can send out to their sphere. The second part is speaker events and training, in helping agents feel like they are conversant in talking about sustainability, whether that's solar, home efficiency, insulation, all of that. We're trying to do about a speaker a month, and the last one we had was fantastic. We have a lot of bungalows in Chicago, which are old brick, usually about 100 years old. And we had the deputy chairman for their group come in and talk about how you make an old home green. We have on the docket someone from Water Reclamation District for Chicago to help us understand how water and sustainability intersect. So we're really excited to just get this programming out there. This kind of ties into the last part. We want to make this peer-to-peer. We're launching what's called an ambassadors program. So even if you're not on the sustainability committee, if you're an agent and this is your cup of tea, we want to help you spread the word at your office. So you can go to your managing broker and say, hey, these are 3 speakers that can educate agents on how to get benefits from ComEd, what the financials behind solar are. It's only going to become more and more important. And if we as agents aren't the one educating property owners on how that works, I strongly suspect if I wasn't doing it, another agent would be, especially in 5 years. So I think that's where part of the motivation is. The earlier you get on board and understanding this, I think the better off you're going to be from a business standpoint.
Let's talk about the work you're doing with CCL. So first of all, I've grown to love this organization. I learned about it about a year ago or so, and I'm just so impressed with the work that Citizens Climate Lobby and Business Climate Lobby, what they're doing to engage stakeholders across the United States and build a platform from the grassroots level, but have a really effective approach in DC. So yeah, tell us more about Citizens Climate Lobby, what you're doing, and then tell us about this initiative that you've been leading, from what I understand. I'm really interested in this.
I would be delighted. Citizens Climate Lobby is my favorite thing to talk about because they're such a wonderful group of people. But yeah, as a big picture, CCL is a international, I should say, nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization that we have about 180,000 volunteers across the country. And we are pushing for common sense, common ground climate change solution. The solution that Citizens Climate Lobby thinks is our best first step at addressing climate change is something called carbon fee and dividend. And the way it works is it puts a steadily rising fee on emissions. It starts off at $15 a metric ton and goes up $10 every year. And I'll get into what that means exactly. And it takes all that revenue and it gives it straight back to US households. So that's the reason it's called a fee instead of a tax. The money doesn't go to the US government, it goes back to Americans. You know, for a lot of people, a big kind of straw man argument or valid criticism of carbon taxes, well, it's money that goes to the government and then they're going to waste it. They're not going to do it. So there's a lot of backlash. And it's proved unpopular. You look at what happened in France, there was a lot when they tried to put a price on carbon, they found some backlash. But there's something really different about this one. A carbon tax where the revenue goes to the government, it might be unpopular. A carbon tax where the money goes right back to American households in a monthly, that has a chance to be wildly popular. And that's where I think this is such a common ground, common sense approach of let's make what we don't want more expensive, emissions, and let's use that money to give to individuals to help them make choices and make lifestyle changes to combat climate change.
And the technology is here. You know, there's been, I mean, we talk about this all the time as a real estate team, but there's been a building science revolution that's happened in the last 10 years. We have the technology to be able to get this done today. It's not like, years from now. We have the technology to get it done today. I mean, this sounds like such a great initiative. Now, I want to ask one more thing. I don't want to forget this. My understanding is that you're leading a charge for a climate declaration for realtors. Do I have that correct?
Yes, and this is very much, it kind of encompasses a lot of what we've talked about already.
Okay.
And we would love to see our industry take a holistic approach to fighting climate change. So that means, one, giving realtors the tools that they need to educate their homeowners and their clients and their property owners. And NAR is already has made such wonderful progress with that. And I think it's only going to get more exciting.
Yeah, we still got a long ways to go though. Yeah.
But we'd also love to pair that with smart federal policy. And that's the real big part of this Realtors Declaration is we would love to see our industry at the table lobbying both sides of the aisle saying, We need substantive common ground policy that starts to address climate change. And not only, specifically for the welfare of our industry, but obviously more importantly for the welfare of future generations. But without smart policy and without a national game plan, none of these solutions that we're talking in terms of retrofits and solar, none of those scale up fast enough in the time frame that we need. So, the Citizens Climate Lobby is the approach that we're and the policy that we're advocating for gives a booster shot in the arm to all of these technologies and in decarbonizing our buildings and homes. It puts those efforts on steroids, and that's why we'd love to see it pass. Is it creates incentives at every level, from consumer to home builder to contractors, to reorienting our economy where the green decision makes the most sense. And that's really what the Realtors Declaration is about, is encouraging our industry leaders and our associations to really become a champion for smart policies. If climate change is something that an agent is particularly interested in helping spreading the word, we very much see our efforts on CCL in this Realtor Declaration as collaborative and wanting other agents to feel empowered to take the initiative to spread the word to their sphere. So if there's someone in the audience listening to this right now that's excited, don't hesitate to reach out to me for more information. I would love to get you on board and help you kind of become the champion to your market of growing support for taking action on climate. This is going to be realtor driven and member driven, so that the more people we have taking the initiative in their own spheres, the better. That's where we can really succeed.
Wow, that was great. So you heard Brett Sarno, the construction manager, talk about Deer Path Farms and what they've been doing since the 90s, pushing the building envelope in really great ways. This is such a great community. And then you heard Citizens Climate Lobby's Chicago real estate agent, George Tully, who I've met now a couple of times, one of our YPN representatives at National Association of Realtors, which stands for Young Professional Network. And George, I know you're out there. I'm expecting that you're going to be a real leader in the real estate industry for National Association of Realtors as you progress through your career as well. So Senator Eldridge, one of the things I remember when we finished, I met you on Sunday in Acton, in the beautiful community in Acton. And on the way out, you asked me if there were any other realtors thinking about climate change, and I assured you there were. George is a great example of that. I mean, he's doing great work. I don't know, anything that you want to comment about what you just saw at all?
No, I mean, that is so great. Exactly what you said is that, even having a relatively small number of realtors or people that really show that, not only is it possible to do this kind of low impact development, but it has a great sale price, and it also obviously saves energy costs long term, is really great to see. And I really look forward to touring Deer Path. I saw the YouTube video over the weekend before I did my video, and was just so impressed with the layout of the homes there. And as I think was said on the video, the homes at Deer Path are attached, but the way they're designed, it doesn't look like they're attached. They each look like single family homes. So to do that and for it to be energy efficient is really impressive.
It's so incredible what Jerry's done. We'll see a video from him in just a second. I don't know, Allison, anything you want to say about the development or the work that George is doing for CCL as well before we go to the next videos?
So I will say George has created the Real Estate Declaration, which is a way that businesses can sign on and say that they do care about climate change solutions, and in particular advocating for a carbon fee and dividend.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great example of how CCL tries to create political will, because when legislators see that business leaders care about an issue, that then it empowers the legislators to take action. And that's exactly where Citizens Climate Lobby comes in. So before we gathered here tonight, I took a look at other realtors who've signed on, and I've seen realtors from all around the country, in the South, in the Midwest, in the Rocky Mountain West, all the way to California.
Yeah.
So that's really going a long way to creating political will.
Nice. And I believe we're going to post the climate declaration on the YouTube someplace. Can we get that up online?
Yeah.
And in the next set of videos, any of you have any questions, Allison's tracking questions as they come in, and we're going to have a question and answer period after this next set of videos. So the next three that you're going to see, one is Jerry Sarno. He's the architect, the mind behind this development in Hudson, Massachusetts, Deer Path Farms. Like I said earlier, he's the grandfather of green building as far as I'm concerned. Every time I have a chance to speak with Jerry, I feel like I learned something. And I am so honored that he's asked us to also represent the homes here. It's just an incredible community. And then we'll hear from Senator Eldridge, who I caught on video on Sunday. So we'll hear a little bit more from the senator on tape. And then we're going to go to Utah, to Salt Lake City, Utah, and listen to Tom Moyer, who lives in a net zero energy home that he and his wife had built for them. And he's an advocate for Citizens Climate Lobby in Utah. His story is really fantastic. And then we're going to come back for a little discussion, some question and answers. So feel free to throw those in the chat on YouTube. And we'll pick it up with the senator and Allison and I when we come back. See ya.
Hi, I'm Jerry Sarno. I am the creator, the builder, and developer of Deer Path Farms in Hudson, Massachusetts. In the mid-70s, mid to late 70s, I became very interested in energy efficiency when we had the initial energy crisis at that time. So I looked into passive solar energy, where the end user would become the beneficiary, the homeowner, the business owner, etc. And I studied that and I incorporated it into a home that I designed as an experimental home that an architecture professor by the name of Timothy Johnson put in his book about direct heat gain. I tried to design it so that not only did it let light in, but as you were in the spaces, it gave you a feeling of being outside. As you traversed the stairs, there was an ability to look out toward the outside. And all of this glass would be beneficial to the heat gain of each home. And then by transplanting deciduous trees around the home so that the home would be shaded in the summertime, this would help keep the home cool at that time of year and let light in during the winter and sunlight in for the heat gain in the wintertime. So these homes are all individually designed with each buyer for their needs and spaces and bring light in so that they can enjoy light at the time of day, sunlight, at the time of day that they would like that to happen. So the main objective in this community is to make these homes so that people are happy living here. The roads are sustainable. They're gravel roads, but by gravel I mean they're cut stone to give a nature of being connected to nature, and they're set up to allow the water to percolate back through into the aquifer. The roads are designed to undulate so that when you come into the community, you start to hear the stones under your tires.
Yes.
And you automatically and psychologically slow down. Also, the trees that are here, 90% of them are transplanted. Instead of cutting down trees as we build, we transplant trees that can be transplanted, some 60 feet tall, and move them to the side and then bring them back to shade the home, and then we bring back trees from the adjacent woods that will also shade the home, and we constantly use evergreens to give a natural barrier. Instead of building the homes adjacent to each other in a cookie cutter fashion, they're individually designed so that each home enhances the rest of the community. So we've been doing this in a very gradual nature because we feel that this part of Massachusetts would keep continually grow in value, and that businesses growing along 495 would become more prevalent. We have approximately 20 to 50 more homes that we can build. We try not to cram the homes into the site. We try to allow for a lot of space between the homes. That's why there's a variance in the number of homes. We also have a single family site behind Deer Path where the homes will be 75 to 100 feet above the Assabet River.
Yes.
And set back about 200 feet. And also the homeowners in those single family homes have a view of 150 degrees up and down the Assabet. So we feel this is a further growth of the community, which also improves the value of the existing homes as each new home is built.
You know, let's face it. You and I both know that there's energy and environmental challenges that are very serious, that are happening here today. And I would just like to say to all the people that you've served, that are homeowners at Deer Path, present, you know, in the past or in the future, that they are, by definition, by just allowing you to do what you and Brett do, good neighbors. This is part of being a good neighbor at this point. You know, we all have individual responsibility to do what we can to chip into the energy and environmental challenges that are in front of us. They are here, they're here right now. And all of the work that you have done, Jerry, thank you so much for creating great neighbors, for creating a great neighborhood, for creating a great community. It's so important for our kids as we move forward here.
Thank you very much, Craig, and thank you for the work that you're doing to make people aware of all these benefits and of how to correct situations and grow with greater energy efficiency. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's so great to have you here, Senator Eldridge, for our event, Slashing Carbon One Building at a Time, which is a collaboration between my real estate team, the Rethink 39 group, and Citizens Climate Lobby, which is a huge grassroots advocacy, national advocacy team that's promoting carbon pricing. And I know that you and Senator Barrett in Lexington have been advancing legislation to look at carbon pricing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Can you tell us a little bit about what carbon pricing actually means, what it means to consumers, to homeowners, to business owners here in the Commonwealth?
Absolutely, and you know, Massachusetts has really led on the idea of carbon pricing for about the past 6 years, really due to Senator Barrett's leadership, and I've been happy to support him. And I think it's important to think about with carbon pricing is, you know, first of all, shifting behavior is that if gas prices are a little higher, getting people to think about alternative ways of transportation and not using cars, but also to use that revenue to invest in more public transportation, I would say green building, and doing everything possible to combat climate change. And so carbon pricing is really a way to shift behavior, but it's also a way to generate a source of revenue, something we really need to look at climate resiliency, combating climate change. And I'm proud that in the Senate climate change bill, there is a form of carbon pricing which Senator Barrett put into the bill, and we're hoping that will be in the final clean energy bill that the legislature is expected to vote on by the end of this session.
That's great to hear, Senator Eldridge, that Senator Barrett's bill it looks like it may have a pathway to move forward. I know that this session has been extended. Can you tell us about the kind of legislative framework? I know everything's a little different this year with COVID. We're doing this event as kind of an open house event, and the real estate community is dealing with COVID as well, and how we do things virtually rather than live. So tell us a little bit about the legislative session and where we are right now and how COVID has impacted that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all had to adjust to the pandemic, including the legislature. And so in addition to remote voting and remote debating for the most part, we have extended the session because we're still debating the budget, and so many of the bills that we wanted to pass this session, first we had to get to the pandemic-related legislation. So the Senate and the House have passed clean energy bills, and that goes together into a conference committee. So there are House and Senate members that are negotiating that bill, including Senator Barrett. And so between now and early January, we have a timeline to pass the bill. And so certainly urging people to contact their state representative and state senator to urge them that the legislature needs to take up the clean energy bill, and also, of course, that it should include the carbon pricing provision that Senator Barrett fought so hard for.
That's fantastic. Thanks. The other really exciting thing, and why I'm such a proud Massachusetts resident, Senator Eldridge, is Massachusetts has really been a leader in the nation to transitioning to a clean energy economy. And now that it looks like we have a new president-elect in front of us, that also understands the value of that, the value proposition of more jobs, of a cleaner environment, and really tackling the climate crisis. Can you just tell us a few words about where we stand in the advancement of a clean energy economy and here in Massachusetts? We've done so much, but as you know, there's still so much more to do. What are your goals moving forward to advance the clean energy economy in Massachusetts?
Yeah, absolutely. We really began to lead the nation back in 2008 with the passage of the Global Warming Solutions Act and the Green Communities Act to move to really embrace that clean energy economy under Governor Patrick's leadership and a number of folks in the legislature. We've made a lot of progress. I think that there's been a bit of a slowdown around some clean energy jobs, including in solar, because some of the solar incentives have become a little more complicated. But the legislature continues to pass legislation to create more incentives for the clean energy economy. And we're certainly seeing offshore wind really advance, which is really, really exciting. But the bill that we have before us is really critical around low income and community solar, making sure everyone benefits from solar power. And we are seeing jobs increase across the state. We're getting back to that right now, despite the pandemic.
Yeah, my understanding was before we went into the pandemic, we had something like 110,000 clean energy jobs, which include, renewables like solar and wind, but also energy efficiency jobs. And of course, energy efficiency experts, building science experts getting into people's homes through the pandemic has been a challenge. So I'm sure that took a little bit of a hit, but I am very hopeful that it's such a job generator in this state, right? That we have such an opportunity to push this all forward.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a job generator, and I think more and more now we're looking at it through an equity lens, making sure everyone benefits from solar power, from clean energy, as well as the environmental justice lens to make sure that those that are in rural communities or cities aren't left behind.
It's so critical, absolutely. Senator Eldridge, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I just am so thankful that we have forward-thinking legislators like you really advancing the state. Thank you so much for helping us with this event.
I'm Tom Moyer. I'm the state coordinator for Citizens Climate Lobby in Utah. And in my paid job, I do military robotics for Hunter Defense Technologies.
So tell me about your work with CCL and state coordinator for Utah. What does that mean? What do you do? What are you doing right now?
It's a little bit of everything. We have 7 CCL chapters in Utah. So it's supporting them, keeping people active, engaged, bringing people in. And then it's working on convincing our legislators, both at the federal and at the state level, to support carbon pricing.
Mhm.
So we are a red state. We're also a very, very pragmatic red state. We have dealt with problems like immigration, gay marriage, religious tolerance. We've addressed all of those things in a way that other parts of the country have not been able to.
That's great. That's really awesome to hear. And how are you engaging? I mean, so first of all, I'm in a blue state, right? I'm in Massachusetts. I'd like to think we're a pragmatic blue state as well. I get what you're talking about with Utah, Salt Lake City, you know, that whole vibe. But what's your kind of secret sauce of engaging, you know, senators on the Republican side of the aisle or congressmen or women on the other side of the aisle on carbon pricing? How do you do that?
I mean, the short answer is the secret sauce is known by CCL. It's respect and appreciation.
Yeah.
That we want to solve the problem with them, not by kicking them out of office.
Mm-hmm.
We want to bring them in to our way of thinking and work on the problem together.
Tell me about what CCL's mission is. You said carbon pricing. Explain that to me a little bit about what that means. Is carbon pricing a tax? If it's a tax, I mean, how do you engage legislators on the red side of the aisle?
Many of them are very leery of the word tax and the concept of a tax. But yes.
Yes. I'm leery of it.
Yeah. We want to put a price on pollution. And the conservative appeal to that is we don't want government meddling in your decisions. We don't want government telling you what kind of light bulbs to have and what kind of refrigerator to have. All we want to do is put the true cost on the product you're buying and then get government out of the way and let you make the decisions yourself. It's individual accountability. It's a core Republican principle.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is put a fee on pollution, a fee on the emissions of carbon dioxide that makes polluting fuels more expensive. And then we want to take all of that money and rebate it to taxpayers. So the government does not grow, the government does not spend anything additional, the government does not intrude itself into your life in any way that it doesn't now. But economically, we tilt the playing field away from pollution and towards clean technologies. The analogy we use is the Alaska Permanent Fund, which is extremely popular in a red state.
Right.
Yep. You're going to get a check every month from the government, or it's a direct deposit into your bank account.
Yeah. And that comes from the oil industry, right?
In Alaska, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, it would come from all forms of energy use, coal, oil, and natural gas.
Right.
In
any
proportion,
fossil fuel.
Yeah, any fossil fuel in proportion to the amount of emissions they're responsible for. Exactly.
And so how do you derive the cost? What do you mean by cost of fossil fuels? What's that all about?
So you're paying the provider for the service they're doing of extracting the fuels and delivering it to you.
Yeah.
But you're paying nothing right now for the privilege of using the atmosphere as your waste dump.
Mm.
So the proposal that we're working on would apply a fee for that privilege, the same way you pay a fee to have your trash taken to the dump.
Yeah.
Stuff is not free. It has an impact on other people.
Mm-hmm.
People are great at avoiding taxes.
Yes.
Just give them a legitimate way to do it.
Yeah.
Cut my emissions, cut my pollution. I will make money. Every entrepreneur, every consumer gets incentivized to put all their collective brain power to work on cutting their emissions.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's the key, right? Incentivizing people to think forward. I love that.
Yep.
And so if I have the numbers right, with the U.S. Department of Energy, of course, here in the Northeast, it's higher, but the last number I saw for average metric tons per home in the United States was something like 8.7 metric tons of emissions annually. So that would be a tax of $87 the first year.
Yeah, in the first year, $87.
Yeah.
In the second year, double that, and the third year, triple that, et cetera.
Yeah. So if I'm in a net zero energy home, like the one that you live in, and the ones that I'm selling here in Greater Boston, that home is producing as much energy, clean energy, usually from
Right.
solar PV here in the Northeast with a really tight building envelope, really energy efficient home, zero. Or I've sold actually, Tom, homes that have HERS scores, condo development that had HERS scores -14 and -22. So they were regenerative. They were creating more energy than they were using. They would make a killing on this, right?
Right.
If I got that right?
Yeah. So a home like that would pay no tax at all. Well, effectively, right? The homeowner themselves, they're not the one paying the tax,
Yeah.
but you're purchasing energy from people who are, and so you normally see it as higher costs.
Yeah.
But yes, a homeowner like that does not purchase the energy that has the tax applied to it, and therefore
Yes.
effectively sees no tax.
Yeah. And did you build the home that you're living in now? Did you start from scratch, or?
We did. It was a blank lot.
And why did you do it? Why? I mean, what were the real motivating factors for you and your wife to go this extra place that not many people? How long ago did you build this house, too? By the way,
We've been in 3.5 years.
3.5 years. So,
yeah.
I mean, there were enough maybe builders that knew what they were doing at that point, but this is rapidly evolving. I'd say over the last 5-10 years is really when this whole building science revolution has happened that no one seems to know about, Tom, right?
Right.
But why did you do it? What was your motivation?
There are not that many people motivated by climate change, but for me, climate change is 100% of the motivation.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for climate solutions. I want to walk the walk. I want to live my own values, and then I want to be an example that I can show to other people, and not say you should fix it, but I shouldn't have to. Like, look, it's not that hard. We can fix it. Here's how it is.
Yeah.
You can have a house that's just as comfortable or more comfortable, that doesn't cost any more, that solves the problem.
Yeah.
So let's get going on solutions already. Let's quit talking about it. Right?
Oh my goodness.
Waste our time trying to figure out how we're going to do it. Let's just do it.
Wow, those were some great videos. Tom Moyer, just fantastic perspective. Jerry Sarno, of course, just you can tell why I'm so enamored with him, and of course Senator Eldridge. So it sounds like we've had some questions come in for the question and answer part of this,
yes.
Allison, right?
And if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably seeing some of these questions come in also, so I'll just kind of go
yeah, bring them out. Let's talk.
Great. So here we have a question about how can you talk about affordable ways to achieve net zero housing that isn't an architect design space if you're working with a smaller budget?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, and it sounds like building from scratch like Tom did. So absolutely, so first of all, there was a really great study that was released by Rocky Mountain Institute, I think a 1.5 years ago or so now, and they did a rigorous analysis on building to net zero energy standards versus new construction across the United States. And depending on the building code, now in Massachusetts we have the most advanced building code in the country, but so the higher the building code, the less the cost differential is. But the cost differential, according to RMI, was 1 to 3%. That's it, 1 to 3% to build to these higher standards. And when you think about total cost of ownership and your energy costs over time, it's a no-brainer to do. Systems like we saw with the energy recovery ventilation system that Brett Sarno showed us in the earlier video, super cost-effective to be able to do this stuff. Putting in heat pump technology, one technology that does heating and cooling rather than a traditional developer investing in a heating plant and a cooling plant. Now they get to invest in better ventilation in their home. So we can absolutely do this. We the technology is absolutely there. That's a great question.
Yeah. And then perhaps somewhat related, we have another question about seeing marketing materials about retrofitting. And I guess when I hear the word retrofit, I think taking an existing house and adding some efficiency features. So I think it's both how to do that, but also marketing materials for real estate professionals?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, let's talk about the resources. So we have a resource list that I think was sent out to everybody, right? Yep. And on that, there's several states in the Northeast, but here in Massachusetts, we have the Mass Save program. So if you live, like most Massachusetts homeowner, in an investor-owned utility area like National Grid or Eversource or Unitel, you have access to the Mass Save program. And the incentives for doing energy efficiency improvements, the amount of money that you can get back, legislation that Senator Eldridge has signed off on, it is there for homeowners to make this super cost effective. If there's one takeaway from today, please go to the Mass Save program. It's underutilized. I think you'd agree with me, Senator Eldridge, right? I mean, only 25% of all homeowners are doing this, and it's such a no-brainer. It's a no-cost energy assessment to do, and the incentives are phenomenal.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's just about the educating homeowners. I think that's so key.
Realtors play a key role in that.
We'll keep on doing the best. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then a question for the senator about the fact that the U.S. has pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and does that affect progress at the local level?
Were you able to hear that, Senator? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Great question. So the good news being in Massachusetts is that soon after President Trump indicated that the U.S. would withdraw from the Paris Accords, first Governor Baker indicated that Massachusetts would stay committed, and then actually in the House and Senate clean energy bills, which are now pending before the legislature, but we voted to also follow the accords. So there's commitment from the legislature, from the governor, and you're seeing a lot of cities and towns commit to those accords, as well as a lot of industries and trade groups. So I think in Massachusetts we're on a good track, but we do need the policy behind that to get there. And obviously, carbon pricing, in my opinion, is a key piece to that.
And we're seeing cities and towns across the United States, not just here in New England, the blue section of the country or California, but we're seeing this, cities and towns in the reddest of states understanding that they have a commitment to be a good neighbor. It's great to see, definitely.
Absolutely.
We do have a question here, what is one thing that anybody could do today to create a more efficient home?
Yeah, that's the perfect question. So Mass Save now, because energy assessors can't come into your home, you can contact National Grid or Eversource, whoever your investor-owned utility is, to set up an energy assessment. But how you do that is on your iPhone. So you walk around with an assessor on the other end through FaceTime or whatever, and you show them where you need work. They send you a box of free LED light bulbs. And they give you an assessment on insulation opportunities or air sealing opportunities where you can hire a professional to come in. But for instance, the insulation work is unbelievable what the state gives back to you. So for a $2,500 insulation upgrade, putting insulation in your attic, you literally pay $500 to get that done. That's how heavily the state has incentivized energy efficiency upgrades in the state. So get a Mass Save energy assessment. Number one, do that first before anything else.
Great. That sounds like, I need to go do that right now.
And, do that before you go to sell your home too, and hire a green designated agent that knows how, that's a value proposition that we can express to homeowners out there when you go to sell. But do it before you sell, because you're going to lower your operating costs. You're going to live in a more comfortable home, obviously, as well.
Well, that is a great lead into another question, which is, Rebecca's writing in that she's had realtors who seem to hint that solar features actually detract from a home's value when we know that they should be adding. So how can you deal with a realtor who's not correctly valuing efficiency features?
Hire another one. So that's honestly my first reaction to that. There are a lot of realtors that have a bias about solar PV in the marketplace because they don't know the value proposition. So there is, and we've got this on the resource list. I wrote an article for Building Energy magazine about the valuation of high performance homes, or existing homes with high performance features, and solar PV is one of those features. So believe it or not, despite what realtors may tell you that aren't knowledgeable and competent in this part of the industry, appraisers will in fact give value to solar PV, particularly the 12 appraisers in the state that have gone through the Valuation of Sustainable Buildings program. So if you hire a real estate agent that's competent in this stuff, we will ensure that you get a competent appraiser as well, and we will make sure that that value proposition is seen by not only the buyer, but the appraiser and the lender as well, which is really critical. That is a great question, Rebecca.
Yeah. And I'll just add, my dad lives in Portland, Maine in an 1800s house, and he just installed a heat pump. He said he's never been more comfortable because he's never been this warm in his house.
Yeah.
And he also purchased a solar array that's off-site.
Yeah.
But he's already generating income.
Yes.
So it's already, you know, it's not only saving money, it's generating money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
well, that condo development I was talking about earlier, where I sold the home that had the HERS scores, so they were beyond net zero, they were energy positive. The value proposition there was, that was under the old SREC program. Senator Eldridge, you remember that, one of the first state incentives that we had for solar PV. Yeah, and that paid the condo fees, the money that they got from the utility that had to buy the credits that were created by the solar PV, that paid their condo fees for the first 10 years of their ownership. Wow. I mean, it's such a value proposition, it's unbelievable.
Wow. Here's a great question, and actually I asked you this tonight. If you have passive solar windows, the great part is that they let heat in when it's sunny, but how do you prevent heat from escaping at night?
Well, like the homes that are designed here, the one that my wife and I own in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, the floors, all of the walls, all of the area pulls in that radiant heat during the day and then slowly delivers the radiant energy even at night. So dropping down the blinds is a good idea to not let it escape, but that is actually stored in the surfaces. The home we own in New Hampshire actually has a cement floor, and it's really good at storing the radiant heat and then allowing it to go off at night.
And that's not unique to cement, there's other...
Yeah, absolutely. Even wood floors will do it less effectively, but cement's a great, you know, any kind of stone product is really, really terrific. But even the walls around, you know, in this home that we're in right now, collect that heat and give it off at night.
Great.
Yeah.
Here's a question for Senator Eldridge. Anne writes in that she's been discouraged about the lack of progress on carbon pricing in Massachusetts, and that it's hard to get bills out of committee. So I've experienced this myself, and I wonder if, Senator, is there any way that we can help get leadership support to get those bills out of committee? Anything we can do, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's you know, I would say first of all that we have entered, you know, a legislature over the past, you know, 6 to 8 years where every session we are now passing clean energy legislation. You know, last session we embraced investing more in offshore wind. This year we have a form of carbon pricing, sort of cap and trade through transportation, that is in the Senate clean energy bill, as well as on the House side, environmental justice. So I think there is an increased commitment, but in terms of a pure carbon pricing bill, I think unfortunately there are still legislators that see or are concerned that it's too much of a burden on working families, even though the bill proposed by former Representative Benson in Massachusetts made sure that actually working families would get a bonus and actually would financially benefit from carbon pricing. But I still think it's difficult to explain, and that's where, you know, the business community, whether it's developers, realtors, builders, anyone, you know, in the business community, if they can show their support to legislators and say this is actually something that will be good for the economy, that won't be a financial burden for working families, I think it can make the difference. But I'd really emphasize that, you know, my district, mostly middle to upper middle class, very strong support for carbon pricing, but I think there needs to be a greater work with low income families and working class families and obviously the business community. But it is frustrating to get bills through legislature, and, you know, we'll keep pushing it, and we'll see what happens with the bills this year.
Is there there anything we can do directly with your office this year to move things through? I know the legislative session was extended until January 1st because of COVID. So you probably are right in the hot spot right now. Is there anything that we can do to help right now at all?
Absolutely. I would say sending a letter to the conferees. So there are House and Senate members on the conference committee that are merging the House and Senate versions of the Clean Energy Bill into a final bill, which will hopefully pass by the end of this year. So sending a letter to the conferees, the Clean Energy Caucus sent a letter to the conferees, including our support for the carbon pricing language in the Senate bill. So, sending a letter to the conferees right now would be helpful. And again, to hear from business leaders, entrepreneurs really could make a difference.
And what are the key committees that we should be looking at to target?
Well, the conferees they're mostly from the Telecommunications, Utility, and Energy Committee, including Senator Mike Barrett on the Senate side and Representative Tom Golden on the House side. So I think it's really focusing on the two of them. And then, some Republican lawmakers, have come out in support of carbon pricing. So reaching out to the Republican members of the committee as well.
What a great question from Ann. Absolutely.
And then we have a question that comes back to kind of this type of development. Sharon is asking, how can we find other similar communities in different parts of the U.S. because this one's so impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we have a lot here in Massachusetts. So our team, I will say our team, the Rethink 39 team, has our handle on all of the developments that are happening here in Massachusetts. That's what we specialize in. And one of the things that we're doing with Citizens Climate Lobby is we're giving 5%. So if you come to the Rethink 39 group, you can reach us at info@rethink39.com. And if you're a member of CCL and you want to buy or sell a home, even if it's a crappy home, even if it's not a green home, we'll still sell it for you. We'll give 5% back to Citizens Climate Lobby from out of the realtor's pocket for the gross commission to Citizens Climate Lobby. That's part of our vision for just supporting a clean energy economy here. Across the United States, there are actually a couple of good national green real estate websites. One of them is called, I'm gonna have to get back to you. Yes. I can't remember the name. It's a national MLS that does green communities. So there's a bunch of them out there. They're exploding all over the United States. And if you need more information about that, send me an email at info@rethink39.com, and I'll definitely get back to you with that information.
And I'll also say, so we sent out a resource document earlier. We're going to send that again, and we can also amend that.
Yes.
And so we'll send a few versions. So keep checking that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we might have gotten to. Let me see.
What great questions.
I know. There are great options with solar and heat pumps to do our part in reducing carbon emissions.
Yes.
But are there also programs to help low-income households afford such improvements? So like if they couldn't do the $500 even of the $2,500.
So how does Massachusetts incentivize the utilities for low-income homeowners, Senator Eldridge? You probably have a better sense of this than I do.
Yeah, there's certainly, there's some federal, monies, such as the CDBG, block grants that can be used for that poorer communities get. I mentioned, I think at the beginning, the Green Communities Act bill. Communities are green communities and they get grants from the state, and so they can use that money for heat pumps, for community solar, to provide a subsidy for certain projects. So that's a good that's a great source of money. We pay in Massachusetts off of our electric bill a fee that helps fund that, and then that comes out in the form of grants. So I think that's a good model as well. And then there is a greater discussion in individual communities about setting aside funding for the purchase of such items in homes, even creating like a sustainability manager to help walk homeowners, renters, residents through how to make their home more energy efficient, including using some of the energy sources discussed.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy to say that we're already seeing several real estate professionals signing the declaration.
Nice.
So we're, that's a real-time action right there. And I think that we've come to the end of our questions.
All right. Well, great. Calls to action. What we have that list, right? Go to the Mass Save program. Absolutely get an energy assessment on your home. That's a no-brainer. And the state, thanks to Senator Eldridge, the work that legislators like him have done to push the ball forward to incentivize energy efficiency in the state is so important, and it's so critical to lowering. We think about solar PV, that it's only for the rich, but we've come to find out that it lowers energy costs for everybody across the board, particularly at peak demand times. So anything that you can do as an individual homeowner, start that process, get it done, and be part of a solution.
Yep. So when we finish here, we will be posting a few links that you can look at. So Mass Save is certainly one of them. NESI, New England Sustainable Energy Association,
yes,
connects professionals so that they can learn from each other around efficiency. There's a link to Deer Path Farm, so you can learn more about. There's some great information online about that. And of course, signing the real estate declaration that's already in the chat.
And if you're thinking about buying or selling a new home, contact us at info@rethink39group.com, and we would love to give 5% of the commission back to Citizens Climate Lobby so we can continue to support the work that your group is doing. Thank you very much, Allison. Senator Eldridge, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate the time that you took with us tonight. Thanks again.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Allison. Honored to be part of this, and congrats on the success, and appreciate the advocacy.
You got it. Thank you. Saying that this just looks super impressive. So